It's showtime, folks. Enjoy the show.
A fine Saturday matinee to you, gentlemen. Steve, Andy, hello.
Good morning, good morning.
Hello, hello, hello. I don't know.
What was that? Did you give up? You run out of runway? I don't know.
Good morning.
Oh, well. Is it really? You guys, I'm so behind on everything. My whole plan after last week's Saturday matinee was to leave immediately and go see Deadpool. I have not seen Deadpool.
What?
I was not able to see Deadpool. And this one, like you, Steve, I've seen all the trailers, but I'm on a media blackout, so I am unspoiled. I know, I'm pretty sure you both have seen Solo now. I have not seen Solo. That's this afternoon. I don't know what we're going to even talk about today.
Wow, you are way behind.
So
actually, I haven't seen Deadpool either.
oh my gosh. Okay.
I know.
And I've
But
had
I
a
know.
busy social calendar. I had a graduation party that we hosted last Saturday, had another one to attend in the late afternoon, and then my brother was in town, and we said, let's go see Deadpool 2. And one of my daughter's guy friends was, he sort of lived near the theater we were going to, and I was like, dude, you want to go with us? And he's like, yeah, awesome. So 3 of us headed out, had a great time. The best part was right before the movie started, one of the managers came in. He said, hey, everybody, welcome. Thank you for coming to tonight's screening of Wolverine. And then he, but what I had never heard before was he clarified. He said, this is a Deadpool movie. It is extremely violent and inappropriate. So we greatly encourage those of you that may have brought children to reconsider whether they should be here for this film. So we're encouraging you to leave now. We can refund you or get you tickets for something else. Or if at any point in this movie you realize, whoops, I made a big mistake, come see us at the office and we'll get you tickets for something else.
Love that.
Wow, that
Yes,
was nice.
I really
Did anybody
appreciate that.
leave?
No, it was an 8:30 show, and I looked around, and there weren't any kids. So I was thought, oh, okay.
Wow.
There were, I thought maybe young kids. It's 8:30. That movie's not going to get out to 11. That's way past their bedtime. But then I thought, well, if you're bringing your kid to Deadpool, you probably don't care about what their bedtime might be. So
Right.
yeah, but I'd never had that experience before, where they really encourage people to make smart parenting choices.
Not like JJ's experience in Sweden.
No, oh my gosh.
That was so brilliant. And they did it in Swedish and English.
Yes.
Where the theater owners, if you didn't see the post in the community theater, or the theater managers come out and they say something in Swedish, and then they say in English, for all you English speakers here, welcome to another mother effing Deadpool movie. Don't be a D and leave your trash in the seats when you leave. Also, please don't beep any in here. Enjoy the movie, which I love. I just love. What are we going to do with this? Right? Do I have to put the profanity warning in front of quotes for the SatMat? Can we be profane in the SatMat? Is that our policy? I don't remember.
You can do whatever you want. You're the one that has to clean it up and edit it. If you
Well, this
wanna
doesn't
do
go through
anything with it.
iTunes.
Yeah.
This doesn't go through iTunes.
Oh, yeah. You
That's
can
right.
do whatever you want.
Oh, all right. Well, then he says, welcome to another motherfucking Deadpool movie. Don't be a dick and leave your trash in the seats when you leave. Also, please don't shit in here. Enjoy the movie. It's so much better when you can swear.
It's such a strange thing to say. I would love to see a Swedish person just saying that at the start of a movie. I'd love to see an American theater person saying that. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Oh my.
Delights me. Well, the only thing I've heard about Deadpool, which I know is already spoiled, is that it's great by and large, but the post-credit stuff is pure genius. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, Steve, you have to answer that one.
I enjoyed
That it rights wrongs that have been done in the universe.
It does many entertaining things. It is a Deadpool movie. It's breaking fourth wall all over the place. It's just a very self-aware film, and they really own it in this one. So yeah, I don't want to tell you more. I want you to just go in fresh
Right.
and have a great time with that one.
All right. What else have you guys seen? Anything else good?
I've been playing catch up on a lot of movies I missed, mostly a lot of horror movies from the last couple years. I've been catching up on the Insidious franchise, on the Conjuring franchise. I watched Ouija. I watched The Purge, getting ready to start that franchise. So, you know, it's been a good time, and I keep having to kick the kids out when they walk through. Get out of here. You're not allowed to be in here right now.
Like, Dad, it's Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. What are we supposed to do? Go outside. Just remember to close the garage door.
That's awesome.
Great parenting. Yes.
That's right.
Well, and now you guys have to suffer through that because your kids are out of school already, which is amazing to me.
Yeah,
they're the ones who have to suffer because they have to go play outside in the awful heat.
Yeah, it's like 170 degrees.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Give it another.
It's only
3.
It's only 150 right now.
Yeah. No, see, I don't have to worry. I've got a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old, so I don't have to really worry about that. I started watching my youngest. She wanted to watch the OA, so we're starting into that Netflix series. So there's very few things. She did want to watch. She did ask if she could watch Altered Carbon, and that is not really appropriate for a 15-year-old because there's just lots of inappropriate things that I'm just not comfortable letting her watch right now with sex.
I haven't even heard of that movie.
It's based on a trilogy of books, and it's an interesting concept when you've got a character. It's sort of like a noir story of a guy who's hired to solve the murder of somebody in the future, but it's sort of detective. So he's always, there's always, naked women that he's having sex with, and because it's, Netflix, it's sort of the HBO thing of like, we'll just push the line and be as graphic as we want to with this, and it's, to me, not necessary.
So it's like your daughter saying, "Hey, Dad, can I watch Game of Thrones?" It's that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I said, no. We can watch the OA. We can watch a couple other things. I did for movies. I'm getting ready for our next trailer rewind and watch The Congress. So that was that's an interesting experience that I can't wait to talk to JJ about coming up. I've been spending my time out in the theaters getting ready for stuff we need to do, like Solo. Pete.
Yeah, I know. Today 1:15, I'm in. I think I'm the last of us, so we can start actually talking about it.
But see, Andy and I have jobs. You don't have you're usually like Friday morning at like 8 a.m. getting out to see things.
I like that. Andy and I have jobs.
Pete, I wish it was like that.
He doesn't.
You don't work.
He doesn't have a real job.
I deeply wish that you understood my livelihood.
You just sit around and wait for us every week.
Exactly.
Right. I've been here since Saturday last week.
He sits
just waiting.
He's in a booth waiting for the light to come on to say, "Okay, Pete, time to talk to the people."
Yeah. Jeez.
You're self-employed. You're on your own schedule. You can do whatever you want.
I have like 15 bosses, Steve. That's the problem.
Damn, that's a lot of TPS reports.
Oh, it's a lot of TPS reports. Andy, what you caught? We've done you already. Steve, we did you. So we're ready. We could talk about trailers now?
We can.
Oh, but I did want to talk about one thing to get feedback, because I threw this out there in Discord and nobody sort of engaged on this. James Mangold's next thing, the Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
Did you not hear about this? Are you not excited about the guy that did? I mean, look at what he did with Wolverine. Having that brought to the Star Wars universe with a Boba Fett film. Am I the only one that's like really amped up about that?
Remember, he also brought us the Wolverine.
Well, yes.
No, I mean, honestly, I am excited. I think James Mangold's a great director. He's done a lot of really exciting things. When he's allowed to do something, and kind of play with that, I think the results can be Logan or 3:10 to Yuma, but he has some stuff that I'm not that thrilled about. That being said, I am excited about a Boba Fett movie. I think it's an interesting idea. It makes me wonder if he'll get to ride a dragon like he did in the holiday special. But it's not, I can't imagine the Star Wars universe is ready to cross the line like the Marvel universe where they're going to start making R-rated projects.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't imagine it's going to be as dark as I think it could be. And if they went that route, I think they could make a really interesting Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the vision that George Lucas ever had for his franchise.
Yeah, I don't think at this point a lot of people care what George Lucas's vision were for that franchise.
But did you hear? Apparently, he still is quite tapped in, because I guess he was on the set of Solo, giving tips and pointers about, oh nope, Calrissian wouldn't do that. He was still, pointing things out to make sure that it fits in with his vision. So I was surprised to hear that.
I am very excited about a Boba Fett thing. I'm excited about all of the prequels, and Lando. The idea of a Lando prequel. Very excited about a Lando prequel. I think that would be really great. I read something on Twitter that I would like to get your opinion on, and I feel like this is. I'm not intentionally either trolling or joining the good Ben Lott, who is notoriously anti-prequel.
Yes.
But this was from the good and kind Roman Mars, who is a host of 99% Invisible and other wonderful podcasts, and he writes, "I'm developing a thesis. Fandom can be so creatively constricting, and nostalgia is so pernicious that studios make prequels because moving a story forward is threatening to fans who want their stories to stay frozen."
Well,
what do you think?
I think that's a brilliant comment, and I think it makes a lot of sense when you look at the backlash that can come when people like Rian Johnson make fairly original new Star Wars movie. I think it got a lot of flack because of things that changed and things that happened. But I think given time, I think it's going to fit. It'll nestle right in with the canon like everything else. And I don't think it will be quite as contentious.
Yeah. I mean, that's a brilliant insight, I think, into sort of, I don't want to say fear or anxiety that studios have, that fans have. Everybody is comfortable with the familiar. And if you want, a solid bet, you go with what's known and familiar. To venture outside that, you risk, failure, but you also risk great success. I mean, that's the sort of balancing act with this of, if you stick with prequels, if you stick with sort of your, frozen nostalgia, you know what you're going to get, but then you lose the opportunity to create something that's what that thing was the first time. I mean, Star Wars was something bold and new that did not exist. And that's the thing that just always baffles me when people are like, well, we like this. I'm like, but at one point that was the new fresh thing. And you are reluctant to embrace the new fresh thing because you just know what you like. You're going to stick with your vanilla. You don't want to try another flavor.
And sometimes they stumble, and I think that's always going to be that'll always be the case. I mean, look at the James Bond franchise. I mean, they had a lot of books to use initially, but then once they started having to write original properties, well, even when they were doing the books, some of them were good, and some of them were pretty poor movies. And I think the case came when they started doing original stories. They were running into the same problem. Some of them were pretty good, and some of them were pretty poor. They just kind of keep doing it. And even when they decided to reboot the franchise and get a new Bond with Daniel Craig, they still went back to the original source material before they started doing some original stories. So it just goes to show that it is a challenge to do something new. It always is.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it scratches a fan fiction itch for a lot of us who grew up with these things, as kids. And now that studios have money to throw toward fan fiction, I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? These prequels allowing deep fans to play in a playground that already exists, and so I'm very much in favor of it, and I'm having a good time so far. So let's see. But I love the idea and of this tweet, and it's something that's really been sticking with me in the back of my mind for.
Well, and I think it speaks to the fact that when something is loved, everybody wants more of it. And then if you get more of it, you always run into a risk of, well, now you have more. Are you happy? And sometimes you are and sometimes you're not. And I think that's perpetually going to be the case with all of these franchises that are just going to kind of keep going, because there's going to be just a lot of stuff that we kind of we're like, but
Well, And you want to say, like, I want to say they're taking the easy way out to do these prequels, but because they have a defined kind of end point, they know where where the story has to land. But that's not entirely true, right? I mean, it's hard to bring 1,000 people together to make one of these movies and still not have the writers and directors fired multiple times and eventually replaced with Ron Howard. Like, it's hard to get to the Ron Howard point on these movies. It's a rough and political road, no matter where in the timeline the movie exists. So, anyhow,
it's always a process because, we'll talk more about Solo tonight, but just the specifics of prequels. Obviously, like if you take something like Rogue One, I mean, they have specific points that they have to hit, but there's a whole creative element that they have to flesh out in order to get to that point. So.
Right.
And sometimes they do better jobs than others, but I generally I still enjoy seeing what people come up with these things.
Yeah, the Fett one. Somebody posted a picture saying, it was of the child Boba Fett holding the head of Jango Fett in the middle of the Coliseum, and said, "Just start here." That's so good. I would love to see what happens next. Let's do that. Anyway, let's do trailers.
Do it. I think we've got a red band.
I'm the only one with the red band,
no
right?
A24s.
That's right.
So Andy and I foolishly had to record a little bit early last week. So the moment we finished, I feel like this trailer dropped. It is the trailer for The Happy Time Murders. You guys, The Happy Time Murders, a red band detective Muppet movie, literally a Muppet movie, directed by Brian Henson. It is foul, and it is, it's not official Muppets. But
they're puppets.
Boy,
they specify them as puppets, not Muppets.
I know, but Brian Henson,
I know.
Come on.
I know.
Come on. You can call them whatever you want. These are Silent M Muppets. That's what they are.
Silent M. No, it's a silent P, Pete. Silent
P.
M, and I guess it is a loud P. Yeah.
It is the story of. I changed the tab. I was so excited about Brian Henson directing it. It's the story of the quote puppet cast of an 80s TV children's show. They begin to get murdered one by one. And a disgraced LAPD detective turned private eye puppet takes on the case. I guess the puppet is taking on the case, and the sidekick is Melissa McCarthy. I don't know, but a foul-mouthed puppet movie starring Melissa McCarthy. This seemed like low-hanging fruit for your trailer, Andy. I
know. I'm surprised I didn't go with it.
You didn't grab it. Also stars Elizabeth Banks, Maya Rudolph, Joel McHale, Jimmy O. Yang. And it's actually a fantastic and rich cast, particularly voice cast. But those are our principal humans, and it looks like I laughed so much harder than maybe this movie deserved. But I laughed a lot at this trailer. I've watched it a number of times. It is awful and fantastic. What do you guys think?
Well, it's Melissa McCarthy, and I love anything she does. And it's Brian Henson, and I love the Muppets. I've actually been kind of starting the Muppet franchise with the kids to kind of watch those again. And I enjoy all of those things, and the trailer certainly makes me laugh.
Are you trying to get them ready for this movie? Is that
yes, I'm building up to this one.
Here?
All right, kids, it's time.
We got to watch the Muppet Christmas Carol to get ready for Happy Time Murders.
No,
wait till you see what they do with that shotgun.
Oh my goodness. The thing with the trailer is I feel like there's stuff that makes me laugh quite a bit. I think that they can do a lot of fun stuff telling a story like this that can be a lot of fun. There are elements of the trailer though where I feel like they're pushing it a little too far, and I feel like it's I hope it doesn't devolve into kind of what Peter Jackson did with Meet the Feebles way back in the 80s in his early career. Because I felt like that was just, dumb. That basically said, let's do a bunch of funny stuff that you'd never see with puppets, like behind the scenes of a puppet show type of thing, like the Muppet Show. And let's just make it over the top and disgusting. And that's what Peter Jackson did. And it was really dumb. And I hated it. This looks like it could be crossing the line into that. And like the whole bit at the end, even though it made me laugh with the Cheese Whiz, that was crossing the line for me. I was like, it went on way too long. But but there's other stuff happening. And so that's why I feel like, it could actually turn into something that is actually good, and it has a darker, funny story that isn't just here for really dumb Beavis and Butthead types of jokes. So I hope that that's what it becomes, because I really enjoy all of the elements that are going into it.
Yeah, I'm sort of where Andy is. I'm intrigued in this as the sort of noirish detective story, and I'm hoping for more of that level of adult tale. But yeah, you get the seedier side of things, but yeah, when things just sort of go like full on sausage party, crazy, outrageous, I don't want as much of that. And I know this is a trailer. You've got to get your audience in there for this. This is a film that I've been waiting for. I think I heard about this probably about 6 or 7 years ago. This is one that had been out there, and it was one of these, it's a great concept, but this will never get made because it's just, who's going to get behind this? How can we get all this to come together? So I'm thrilled to see it actually be realized with this cast, with this director. These are I think the right people for this. So to me, this is the greatest potential for this film. And so I'm very excited about that.
They actually started talking about this 10 years ago.
Okay.
It was 2008 when they first, the Henson Company first announced it.
Wow.
I think that you guys have come in here sounding like grown-ups, and I do not. I obviously am in it for the dumb Beavis and Butthead jokes and the long cheese whiz scene at the end. Whatever. We'll see soon enough. It looks like it releases in the U.S. August 17th. 2018, but it'll start just the day before in the Netherlands, UK, and roll out through the rest of the world after that. So start the clock August 16th.
I just have to throw this out there because it's pretty interesting. The Sesame Workshop, which is the organization behind the production of Sesame Street, has actually filed a lawsuit against the people who made the movie for using their trademarks in a film they have no involvement with, including the slogan, "No Sesame, All Street."
Really?
I find that interesting. I assumed that it was all kind of under the Jim Henson Company, but apparently the Sesame Workshop is formerly the Children's Television Workshop. It's the nonprofit that's been responsible for the production of the show.
I can see why they might be sensitive about this trailer. I can see that. There's another thing that's been just sort of floating around the back of my mind with this, and this is the red band. To your point, Andy, that it just sort of ratchets up the raunchiness stuff in this trailer. I wonder if there is a red band trailer economy that we're seeing right now. Like, if you're going to release a red band, you better find a way to make it the most, sort of offensive stuff in the movie, because there's a pecking order in red band trailers now. If it's not red band enough, it's not going to get enough attention.
That's an interesting thought. It's not red band enough.
Yeah.
It's not red band enough. Yeah. So anyway. All right. That's me. Who's next?
My trailer is a remake that I was not even aware was happening, which I kind of found interesting. It's the remake of Papillon, the originally a film starring Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman from 1973. Based on the book that came out. When was the book released? I can't remember, but it's a true story of Henry Papillon Charrier, who Charlie Hunnam plays in this new version, the Steve McQueen part. He's a safecracker who was unjustly convicted of murder and committed to life in prison at the penal colony on Devil's Island in French Guiana. But he forms a friendship with somebody that is a kind of a surprise. He's this really quirky counterfeiter who apparently has a lot of money and agrees to finance Papillon's escapes. And this counterfeiter is Louis Degas, played by Rami Malek. And it really is just kind of the multiple. It's a story chronicling the multiple attempts of the escapes that Papillon tries to make, and all the trouble that he keeps getting into. I really enjoyed the original film with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman. I found it to be quite an interesting story, and I guess, oh, here it is. It was an autobiographical novel written by Henry Charrier, published in 1969, and kind of details his 14 years of life in the penal colony. So I haven't seen the original film in quite a long time, but watching this trailer, I feel like they've added a lot of stuff that I don't remember from that one. So I don't know. I had no idea this was even something that was out there, and here I see this trailer and I'm like, oh, check that out. They're doing a remake, and it actually looks really good. I love the pairing up of these two actors. It makes for what I think is a really interesting pair, and watching the two of them go through the variety of things that they go through over the course of the trailer, I found to be quite interesting. So, it wasn't something that I would have expected them to do a remake of, but watching this trailer got me really excited. And so this is now one of the films that I definitely want to check out this summer. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm very excited about it. It's interesting to me. They were making. I was watching some interviews about this, and they were making a real point to say that this is. It's hard to distinguish this. When you see it, same name as the '73 film, but they're taking great efforts to remind us that it is based on the books. And I say books because it's not just Papillon. It's the sequel to Papillon 2, which was released in 1973, called Banco, which is his continuing story of his life in Venezuela. And so they're really trying to go back to source material. I look at the trailer. I'm with you, Andy. There's a lot of stuff clearly in here that was not in the original, fantastic original movie. And so I think they've really gone to efforts to make this their own, and I think that's really exciting. It's because Papillon it's a classic, so I hope they're able to give this its own identity in that light. Steve, have you read the books?
I have not read the books, and I have not seen the film. It's been on my list of classic film, Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman, and it's just one of those that's there waiting to be watched. And so now I'm really torn with this one. Where do I start? Because there's the inevitable comparison. So do I wait and see this one, and then knowing that this is based on the source material, or do I go and watch Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman and set some type of expectation for this one? Now I'm really torn, because this is an interesting cast for this, because you can't compare, casts. You would think if you're gonna remake something with names like that, you're gonna have to get like big names to live up to that caliber of film, and they're not. And so I'm hoping that that's alleviating sort of, I guess, on the business side, we don't have to pay for Tom Cruise, so we can get, Charlie Hunnam in this, and so we can do some really interesting things. That's freeing us up. There's not as much invested in this, so we can take some bigger risks with not having to replicate what everybody's expecting by just remaking the film, but actually telling the full story and being maybe more faithful to that rather than the prior adaptation.
If you look at it as a screenwriting exercise, I think it's that gets even harder. The original it's a Trumbo screenplay, and this one is Aaron Guzikowski, who wrote another film that's pretty high on our list, Prisoners. So I'm really interested in it. It looks like it's coming from solid intention, solid pedigree.
Yes.
Well, this movie is going to be opening here in the U.S. August 24th. It premiered in Toronto almost a year ago, last September, but it actually started its rollout in Sweden April 20th. It'll be opening in Italy June 28th, and then Germany July 26th. So those are all happening before it hits the U.S. And then after that, it'll be opening through other parts of the world from September through October. So, it's a slow rollout, and it's not quite everywhere, but it'll be a bit of an expansion. So hopefully people will get a chance to see this one.
All right, Sweden friends,
let us know.
Think?
Yeah.
Let us know. Steve?
Okay. I don't know what to make of this. I saw this trailer and I thought, okay, it had a really interesting start to this trailer, because it's black, and it's voiceover, and then there's gunshots that sort of the flashes of the gunshots are illuminating the words on the screen. I thought, that's okay. Now you've got my attention. You're doing something interesting. And then we get Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly in a Western comedy, maybe called The Sisters Brothers. I don't know what to make of this, because I'm laughing, but it's a Western, and we've got two like hitmen out to take, after some gold prospecting. It's got all those sort of tropes of a Western that I want, but the tone is what just keeps me coming back to this one. I hope it is this sort of odd movie that has a nice balance to these two things, because I've got a great cast. I've got Jake Gyllenhaal and Joaquin Phoenix and Rutger Hauer and John C. Reilly and Riz Ahmed and Carol Kane. To me, I'm thrilled to see, this cast. There's some actors that I very much appreciate their work. I'm interested to see what they're bringing. This is directed by Jacques Audiard. I have not seen any of his work. I remember hearing about his film Rust and Bone back in 2012, but wasn't anything that at the time either had time to fit into my list of things or was just a high priority. But there's just something about this goofy story and the way it's presented that is just, it just stuck with me. And this does not have a release date in the US other than 2018. It's got a September 19th, 2018 release date. So I cautiously optimistic about when this might hit the US. Is it going to get a theatrical release? Is it going to be something different? Because to me, this just looks like, going back to our conversation about something fresh and new, this at least is presenting itself as something unlike what you would typically see in a Western.
Yeah, having only seen Rust and Bone from the director, but also knowing about A Prophet, the tone of this seems so different for Jacques Audiard. It just does not in any way seem like next on his list, a Western comedy. It struck me so strangely when I watched this trailer. I'm like, and I mean, you separate the director from it. I mean, it looks like an interesting film. I think that the concept seems kind of fun. These kind of doofus brothers who are these killers out to catch this gold prospector and get a reward for him. It looks like an interesting story. I kind of like that vibe of it, but just throwing Jacques Audiard in as the director really just spins my head. But that being said, it's got a great cast and it looks pretty interesting. So I want to say this is going to be something good. It's based on a novel, so who knows? Maybe that really kind of just has always struck a chord with him. And I think a lot of filmmakers are always like, I really want to make a Western one day. So maybe this is just his chance.
I don't know. I think, yeah. I mean, I'm super in favor of this movie. I hear all the speculation and like trying to guard opinions of what this could possibly be, and I'm right with you. John C. Reilly has. His career is quite an emotional roller coaster of parts. I mean, he's taken on some really interesting roles, and I don't know which. I can't categorize this one.
Yeah.
Like I can't put this one in a bucket. Joaquin Phoenix, same thing. Like I want to put this in a bucket, but I can't. I just can't. It's like either not weird enough or too weird, and so I'm really excited. But the Creed Bratton is in it. I've always loved Creed Bratton. He plays quarrelsome saloon guy Town 2, which I find amazing because he did 180 episodes of The Office playing the character Creed Bratton in The Office, which I would love to know the story about that in particular, how he ended up playing a character named exactly himself. And here he's in a movie playing an unnamed character. So I love that actually leads into our list for today. So anyhow, I'm in favor of this movie. I'm very confused by it.
When does that one open again?
Oh, that opens, like I said, it's September 19th in France, and then just 2018 in the US. So that, again, leading to the cautious optimism of what's going to happen with this film.
Schrodinger's release date.
Yeah.
It may already be released. Yeah. You both like it and don't. Here we go. Let's do the lists.
All right. Well, we talked about Predestination as our final time travel film this week, and we gave options to the folks over on Patreon to pick for us. And once Pete got on board with the right poll, we realized. So the options were Ethan Hawke movies with an unnamed main character, or movies based on short stories. And the voters came back with movies with an unnamed main character. So that is what our lists are going to be about today. So who wants to kick it off?
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of steals in this list.
I worry a little bit.
Well, and I did put it out to our listeners. So we've had a lot of movies thrown out on the board already. So it's also possible that we're going to be throwing some films on our list that they already shouted out. But my goal is to pick ones on my list that nobody has said yet. So we'll see if I can maintain that streak.
I'm going to give you a chance to maintain that streak, because I have the Red Band trailer, so I feel like I should. It's not A24, but I feel like I should get to go first, right?
Yeah, sure.
Is that a thing?
It's not, but you can make it one.
I think it should be a thing.
Starting now.
Now it is.
Here you go. Well, I'm going to start with a movie that I'm almost sure is going to be a steal, although I think it's also a cheat. Does it count if they're called something, but that something is not their name?
I think that it counts.
Okay,
if it's not
then
their
I'm
name,
go...
they're not. You're not finding out what their name is. It's like a nickname, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. It's a nickname. Okay, then I'm going to go with 2009 Zombieland. From Ruben Fleischer, in which pretty much everybody is going by something that is not their name. Jesse Eisenberg comes in as Columbus. That's where he's from. Woody Harrelson's fantastic as Tallahassee. Emma Stone is Wichita. And Bill Murray as Bill Murray. This is I really enjoyed this movie. It is one of my favorites, probably shortly after Shaun of the Dead in the zombie oeuvre. And I think I love the way they play with names because it becomes a part of the identity of the movie and of how these characters relate to the world. And so I think this works very well for me. Zombieland.
It's a fun one, and it's a good pick. Not a steal for me, but I had thought about it.
See, I knew this was going to be on your list. I was amazed that you had not talked about this on the main show, because I thought, okay, let me check No, they haven't. Okay, I'm going to put this as a backup because I know Pete will grab this one. It's a film I love, and unfortunately, I'm so disappointed that this did not make it as a series. There was a pilot back in 2013. It didn't get picked up for development as a series, but I recall listening to a podcast interview with the writers, and this was originally conceived of as a TV show, which is where you get those things of like Zombie Kill of the Week, and and there's so many of those things that are set up early on that to do this as sort of a shorter length, weekly series, they could work really well. And unfortunately, they tried it and it didn't work out, and I don't know that it's ever going to come back around to that. But this is such a fun film. It's sort of one of our Halloween go-to films around here for, yes, it's zombies, but it's also just hilarious and an amazing cast. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg and Emma Stone at that point, really not big names. And I think even Woody Harrelson has become even more, he's like the new Kevin Bacon. He's in everything now, all across the board. So to look at this and think at this time, it was sort of like, oh yeah, these are some familiar-ish faces, and it's sort of this quirky genre thing. But now to look at it and say, it just holds up so well. Such a great pick.
I love it. So who's next?
I will take that then.
All right.
I'm going to jump out of order, and I am going to go with Matthew Vaughn and pre-Bond Daniel Craig. Layer Cake. I remember I discovered this film. I was at the library and was just picking things out, and somehow ended up checking out both Layer Cake and Stardust and realizing, oh, I'm doing a Matthew Vaughn double feature here, without intentionally doing it. It's been several years since I've seen it. I think this is one that is going to hold up well. when you have a story where your main character is sort of telling their own story, it's sort of like the perfect conditions for that character to not have a name. Why would they talk about themselves by name? And for me, this, I think, is probably one of those things that cemented Daniel Craig as that, future James Bond. It's just a great action story. You've got some plot twists and so much fun with this film. I'm sure it was probably on the list from our listeners over there. I did not get over there, but first time I think of a film of an unnamed character, this is the one that comes to mind.
That was a great one. It's one of those great movies that I remember really enjoying. I thought Daniel Craig was fantastic in it. But weirdly, like, I remember nothing of the story. I just remember really liking it. So I felt a little hesitant about putting it on my list since I couldn't recall the story at all.
Oh, that's funny. I'm absolutely with you. And for some reason, Steve, I knew you were going to do this one. This was high on my list. It's on my list of alternates, and I thought, I'll bet Steve is going to do this one.
Yep. I'm going to kick off with mine. So far, it has not been stolen, which is great. So, my first choice is a really, really great Clint Eastwood film that we've not talked about on the show, but something that I really enjoy that he directed and stars in. And you could say that the title kind of defines who he is, but it's not who he's credited as. The title, of course, is High Plains Drifter, and he plays the Stranger. And this is a fantastic movie where he's this mysterious stranger. He rides out of the desert, comes to this mining town on the shore of a lake. A lot of stuff. You don't really know what's going on, but he seems to be ready to kill everybody. And by the time the end of the film rolls around, they've literally painted the town red. He's pretty much taken down all the bad guys. It is a really great movie. I love it quite a bit. So that's my first pick, High Plains Drifter.
I'm looking at Clint Eastwood's all of the parts that he has played, because I think he's played more effectively unnamed characters than I can count on any other single actor.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
You could. I think you'd just do, and maybe Andy's going to do the Clint Eastwood unnamed character list, because you could.
It's just all Clint Eastwood.
You could just easily do a whole list of that. So, oh yeah,
I'm sure you probably could.
All right, so my next pick, I'm gonna go with one that's a little bit lighter. Comes from the Broadway. That's where we're gonna leave it there. It is The 7-Year Itch, starring Marilyn Monroe as the girl in Billy Wilder's film. It is fantastic comedy. It stars Marilyn Monroe, Tom Ewell, and it's one of my favorites. And it's the thing that has the iconic picture of Marilyn Monroe, on the street vent. But it's a much funnier movie than just that moment. Actually would allow you to believe. It's definitely worth seeing if you haven't seen it. And I've run into more and more people who haven't seen The 7-Year Itch, haven't gotten those laughs. I think Tom Ewell is just fantastic, and he was actually the one who originated the part on the Broadway. And so it's one of those fun movies to watch. If you're into stage adaptations as well. So 7-Year Itch, The Girl.
I have not seen that in a long, long time. I think that was back in high school working at the video store and going through, I think I was trying to do a whole Billy Wilder thing and watch a bunch of his. And yeah, I don't know what that film's going to feel like watching it now in 2018. Right. I considered putting this on my list. I put it low down as like a backup because I just thought, you've got Marilyn Monroe, she's the girl, and what is that really, how is she treated as an object in this film? And I think I remember laughing, and it's some great comic moments to it, but I think it's probably a comedy of a specific era, and I don't know how well that's going to play nowadays. But I agree. It's definitely, I think a great performance. Story-wise, I think this is one I'm probably going to be really uncomfortable with.
Yeah, this is one I would actually sit down and watch Altered Carbon with your daughter probably before I would watch this. It does, it is of a time, it's of an era, and I'm probably with you. I haven't watched it in a long time, and my memory of it is that it's full of the sort of slightly tame ribald comedy, and but you're right, like we're in a we're in an era that makes these particular issues and how cavalier they were with these particular issues in that period pretty sensitive. So it's worth taking that. I mean, it's about a guy has the opportunity to sort of live out his bachelor dreams when his family goes away, and there are these lines in it that are just sort of ridiculous. Marilyn Monroe is like, oh my gosh, what was that great line? I have everything: a married man, champagne, potato chips. It's like the world is my oyster. Like it's really ridiculous, and that they never give her a name is you're right. It's a bit of a sensitive.
Yeah, other than watching the iconic scene where the infamous moment with Marilyn Monroe on the grate, this is a film I watched and just hated. I think it's terrible. I think it has a terrible message, and I just thought it was complete garbage. So yeah, that's my opinion.
No. So when did you see it?
Oh, I don't know, probably 15 years ago or so.
Okay, but so you were but so you're still an adult. See, I saw this as like a teenager, so very different mindset approach. Because totally, very, very much so. Yeah, seen this on the other side of being married, and this whole idea of like, men get bored after 7 years, and it's okay that they have this. Yeah. Oh, I agree. So I don't need to see it. I've got Andy there to be angry for me.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay.
Andy is your anger proxy.
There we go.
Oh, God. I love it.
Oh.
All right. Who's next?
I am going to probably steal one from Andy then. I did a lot of searching around to make sure that this character was not named. Because sometimes they'll be named in the credits, but the name is never mentioned in the film. So I had to do a little bit of digging around just to verify. But I'm going to go with a classic John Carpenter alien invasion movie with Roddy Piper. They Live.
That's a steal from me.
Oh, is it
a steal from me?
Oh, okay.
I had thought about it, but
this is one that I again discovered at the video store, watched it, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, just wondering how well this thing is going to hold up, because I just recalled such great moments in it, but then wondering, it's the 80s. How bad are some of these effects? And it's John Carpenter, so you never know what you're going to get with him, of how well things are going to hold up. But had a great time watching this again, and it's just such a great concept of a guy, and that there's this whole secret invasion going on, this takeover, and people are being brainwashed through subliminal messages. And I think still the iconic back alley fight that I think is like 6.5 minutes long. Still, it's great to see just sort of that brutal fist to fist brawl. We don't have, superheroes leaping and walls exploding. We've just got two guys bare knuckle brawling in a back alley. Still works really well. So yeah, that's my second pick. They Live.
It's such a great movie, and it's saying a lot. That's what I love about it is John Carpenter was really talking about 80s and consumerism while making a really fantastic sci-fi film. So I think it's a solid choice. So good pick.
Yeah, I mean it actually ended up as my first alternate. So I'm so far my number one pick hasn't been stolen, but that was very close.
Okay.
All right, my next choice, I am going with
It's garbage. I hated that movie. Oh wait, sorry. You go ahead.
Wow, I love it. You pre-hate. That's what I'm generating here. I want to hear you say it after I say what it is.
Okay,
so that'll be great. This is, I think, I think you could fairly call it more of a classic than They Live, because it was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. This is the only film that won Best Picture that I think that he was behind, and it is, of course, the 1940 film Rebecca that he directed, based on the novel by Daphne du Maurier. It's a strong film about the second wife of De Winter, of Laurence Olivier's character, Maxim De Winter. Joan Fontaine plays the second Mrs. De Winter. And the story is kind of about the haunting presence of his first wife. And largely how the housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, how she kind of plays off of that. So it's a great psychological thriller. I have a great time watching this. And Joan Fontaine, she's never credited as anything other than the second Mrs. De Winter. You really never know what her name is. And that's kind of a big point of the movie, is that it's this... Rebecca's presence is so domineering that it almost makes this second wife less of a person. And a really interesting way that it plays out in the film. So that is my second choice.
Yep.
Tell me you hate it, Pete. Go on.
I hate it. No, you win this round, Andy. This easily skates over the 6-star IMDb star rating. I'm a big fan of this movie. So creepy and it's wonderful. This was wonderful.
I hate that I haven't seen it.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's one of those. I've never done a whole like Hitchcock list. I've gone into some of his earlier stuff, but I've never been like a whole Hitchcock completionist. There's a whole bunch that I haven't seen, and this is one of them. And I know I need to see it, but I'm not one of those. I'm gonna work through all the Hitchcock because I love being able to space those out and enjoy them for what they are, and I'm concerned of just finding the right time to enjoy those things. So.
Well, it's a good one. It's worth checking out. So it's not one of his best. I can see why the Academy may have favored it because of the studio that was behind it, and it's based on a classic novel. It's kind of got a lot of that gothic romance and that thriller aspect. So I can see why they got behind this one over some of his other ones that might have been a little more genre. But it still is well worth watching, and I think Hitchcock has a strong hand with it. So check it out.
I cannot believe we have made it this far, and this movie. I feel like if it's going to be a steal, it's probably going to come. It would have come from Steve. I am so proud that I have been able to sneak in With Nail and I from 1987 to this list. Bruce Robinson written and directed one of my very favorite, besides Hudson Hawk, one of my very favorite Richard E. Grant performances. Richard E. Grant, Paul McGann, Richard Griffiths in this film. The characters, Richard E. Grant plays With Nail. Paul McGann plays ellipsis ampersand I. He plays the character and I. And it is the story of do nothing, know nothing bohemians, and they go on an accidental holiday, and things go very, very far sideways for them. If you're fans of The Young Ones, if you're fans of that sort of British comedy that is both crazy and deeply, deeply sort of heartbreaking, this is a fantastic film for you. 1987, With Nail and I. I adore this movie.
I think it's interesting that technically his character is named Marwood in the published screenplay, but as far as the film itself goes, he's never named.
He never named, yeah.
I've never seen it.
Neither have I.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you guys.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's always been something that I've wanted to check out, but I've just never gotten around to.
Well, it's worth it, but what do I know? I liked 7-Year Itch.
This is probably crap.
It's probably crap.
I'm going to go with the film that made me fall in love with Robert Rodriguez and Salma Hayek. I'm going to throw out Desperado, which is the sequel to El Mariachi. This is just a wonderful mid-90s exaggerated action movie with, machine gun and rocket launching guitar cases. And you've got just a hilarious little sequence with Quentin Tarantino. You've got Cheech as the bartender. So many great things in this movie. You've got Steve Buscemi as Buscemi. That's a great little monologue at the beginning to start things off. This is one I just had such joy seeing on this big screen when I saw it the first time, and said, this guy, I can't wait to see what he does next. He knows how to entertain and just ratchet up the violence to like comic book levels and do it in such a fun way.
Rodriguez is one of those filmmakers who I love that he has a passion for making films with as little money as possible and finding a way to, creatively tell stories on the cheap so that he can, make more money for himself and for the studios. But I feel oftentimes his stories are left by the wayside, and that's, I think, his weakest element in almost every one of his films, unless it's an adaptation like Sin City. I do remember, though, early on finding that this film was quite a lot of fun. I haven't seen it probably since it was in the theater, but I do remember thinking it was fun and thinking that he did kind of do something a little more than what he had done with El Mariachi, which was an interesting case study, I think, for selling your body to science and then making a movie with the profits. It wasn't a complete success of a movie except for that aspect of it, but I think that this amped it up, and I think he did a good job proving that, hey, if he can't tell a good story, at least he can make a movie that's fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I had a great time watching this movie, and I think it's probably, to your point, Andy, because I didn't think about the story very much.
Yeah,
It is so much fun on its merits, and I was very close to just doing, El Mariachi, Desperado, and Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and just go with the trilogy for my list. Right? It's worth seeing them all. So for a reason, even if it's not a reason that is all too apparent in the narrative. So super fun.
Well, for my final choice, I'm stuck with two. I think I'm going to have to go. They're both Tom Hanks related. I think one of them is likely less popular though, so I'm gonna skip it, even though I think it fits better. Only because the character in the movie that I am going to talk about, I have a hard time arguing him as a main character. I would say he's a strong supporting character that I think certainly is prominent in the story because he's one of the members of the band. This is That Thing You Do, Tom Hanks's first film directorial debut. It's a really fun musical comedy about kind of a band that makes a one-hit wonder and skyrockets to popularity and then tries to figure out what to do with it. Tom Everett Scott is our lead, and he is, of course, Guy Patterson. The character, though, that is never named is the bass player, played by Ethan Embry. And technically he's credited as, I think, TB player, but that actually stands for the bass player. So he doesn't really have a name. And I guess that fits, even though he's not quite the main character. But I still think it qualifies because it's a lot of fun. I haven't talked about it on the show before, and this is a movie that I think everybody would love. It's a nice film. It's fun. It's a nice story, and that's the one I'm going to go with. Thoughts?
I hated it. Worst movie ever. No, not worst movie ever. I mean, it's this is one of those. Yeah, it's a light, enjoyable film. It's something that if back in the days when I had cable TV, if I was just flipping channels and came across this, I'd stop and just watch it. It's a straightforward, rise to fame and all the challenges that come with that, and it's got a good cast, entertaining. It's not one that is like one of my favorites that I feel drawn to have to watch, but it's one that if it's on, I'm gonna watch it because it's entertaining and it's a fun story. I mean, there's so many great little quotable moments in it that make it entertaining. Their little wordplay in their name, that they're the Wonders, but it's like, what is it they call
Oneaters?
The Oneaters, yes, exactly. Yes.
Oh, that's good times.
This is a funny movie. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like this movie when it comes up in conversation, that the number of people who like this movie is undisputed. Like, people seem to like this movie, but I have met a lot of people for whom this movie has become the movie they put on to just ease their soul, right? It's the movie that they put on anytime when they're sick. It's a sick day movie. They've seen it hundreds of times. It never reached that point for me. I enjoyed it. I think I've seen it twice, maybe, and I enjoyed it, but it never reached that point. For me, that movie is Ronin. Like, I watch that movie all the time, and I just love it so much. And I don't. It's undisputed champion of sick day movies for me, and so anyway, so that's that thing you do. It's one that I want to love more because I know how many people that I like and care about actually love this movie so much, and I've just never quite gotten there.
And I think that's fine. I do love though that it's a film, because I think when it came out, it was seen as, oh, it was entertaining. It was kind of forgettable entertainment. But I love that it's actually kind of found this audience and it really connects with people. And so, I think that says something about the movie, that it can really kind of keep alive long after it came out. So, but anyway, that's the list, everybody. Looking at what people threw out over on Discord, we've got The Driver, which I was going to talk about, but Nick Langdon threw that one out, along with Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker, which I still haven't seen. The Road has been on the list. I think Martin Tilkvist threw that one out as soon as we put the poll up. Layer Cake was mentioned. Mother, 12 Angry Men. I was going to talk about the Russian version of that, 12, but 12 Angry Men made it. And of course, Kill Bill Volume 1 was mentioned. Hero, which we've talked about on the show. The Truck Driver in Duel. Fight Club, which we've also covered on the show, and then The Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and which I had on my list, and then Once from John Carney, which also was on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, Once made my. Actually, Kill Bill made my list, but I think we find out her name, right?
Only
so that's why I guess it's only
2.
Kill Bill 2. Yeah.
So I thought that was still fair if she's not mentioned. Yeah. She's always bleeped out in the first one.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So
okay. Fair enough.
Yep.
There's some great selections. I love The Beast.
It's true. I didn't think about that, but then I was reading online and somebody threw that out. I'm like, I guess that's true. You never find out what the prince's name is. He's only ever the Beast.
That counts. I think that's great.
Hashtag me too. Let's give him a name. Come on, people.
Oh, jeez.
I was debating putting Reservoir Dogs on my list, but I wasn't sure if that was fair because they're all
pseudonyms.
Nicknames.
Yeah, nicknames.
They're all nicknames, but still, I'm like, oh, they're not named, but technically, I don't know. I was a little torn on that one.
I think though doesn't. Well, I know Walter Hill's. I think is probably.
I think that's the best
because that's probably the best one because they're all those kinds of names: the driver, the detective, the connection. I think that's
every character. In that
every
movie.
character. Yeah. Really good. Excellent picks. What's next?
I don't know. The list you already did.
Yeah.
With
the list I already did.
No,
totally defunct.
That's void. So we're doing Ocean's 11, the original 1960 film, next week, and the options are heist comedies, movies with musicians not acting as musicians, and movies with numbers in the title, and sequels don't count. So far, the poll is leading toward heist comedies, but Patreon members, if you have not gotten your vote in yet, head on over and vote so that we can see what we're going to talk about next week.
Outstanding. Thank you, everybody, for downloading, listening to this show, for putting up with us, for sticking around. We sure appreciate it. And thank you for supporting us over on Patreon, patreon.com/thenextreel. Thank you for helping us continue to do what we do and figure out new ways to grow the show with your support. And we sure appreciate it. That's it. I got to go get ready for Solo.
Yes, you do.
Thanks, guys. Andy, Steve, talk to you next week.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks, everybody.
Hondo.